are currently exploring normalizing relations with Syria's new government, as you know, beginning with my meeting with President Ahmed al-Sharaa and Secretary Rubio's meeting with the Syrian foreign minister in Turkey after discussing the situation with Crown Prince Mohammed and President Erdogan of Turkey. I am also ordering the cessation of sanctions against Syria to give them a fresh start. It gives them a chance for greatness. The sanctions were really crippling, very powerful. So we will be dropping all of the sanctions on Syria, which I think really is going to be a good thing.
Big news out of the Saudi meeting. Trump speaking this morning at the Gulf Cooperation Council in Riyadh. Syria's new president, Ahmed al-Sharaa, reportedly offered to build a Trump Tower in Damascus as U.S.-Syrian relations enter a new era. Joining me now is Argent LNG CEO Jonathan Bass. Jonathan is in Riyadh right now. Thanks very much for being here this morning, sir. What was the reaction to all of that breaking news from your standpoint, being on the ground there in Riyadh?
I mean, being in the audience was electrifying as everybody heard the words from President Trump. It was incredible that the reverberation, everyone got up, stood up, was clapping. It was the only clapping, standing ovation that he had throughout his speech was on Syria. And then the streets exploded around Syria. The street just took control and was singing and joyful. You know, you had a country that people couldn't send their mothers money, they couldn't send their fathers money, and today they're coming out of the dark and open a new page to the future of being a nation that sits at a table, maybe not the United Nations, but maybe sits at the table of nations with the United States.
And do you trust that new leadership in Syria?
You know, look, everybody has a past that needs to come forward, and he assured me in all of our dialogue, first he wants to take control and ensure the risk of any damage being done to any future synagogues or churches or any religious minorities have an actual seat at the table. He doesn't want to lead from the top, but he wants to lead from the center and center up. So I believe that he wants a changed Syria to take Syria through the future and bring them in out of darkness and lead them to a path of economic stability. And he really believes that the only partner he had to make a deal with was Donald Trump. He believes that a man who shared one common goal with him, which they both had one common tie, which was that they were both shot at. They understood the fragility of life, and they understand how God can take you from the earth in a second.
Wow.
They feel that he felt that he had a path that he could join with President Trump, and everybody's in there. Maria, don't be fooled. You have the Chinese, you have the Russians, you have the Turks, you have the Iranians, you have everybody in there. You have the Gulf nations that want a part of the pie.
Yeah.
And what he felt is that he wanted to be the third on the list, not of Afghanistan and Iraq. He wanted to be on the third on the list of Japan, Germany. And he only saw that through a partnership with Donald Trump, that he was the only man to make that happen. And I was very happy. You know, I left Damascus not even 2 weeks ago with a mission to try and bring everybody together, at least have his voice heard, to protect Jewish sites, protect the Jewish community that rests, the Christian community, the religious minorities, you know, need a seat at the table. And I believe he will bring that together.
That is incredibly powerful, Jonathan, truly. Meanwhile, the president also announced that the U.S. and Saudis have signed several deals, energy deals between Saudi Aramco and American oil companies. It includes a $3.4 billion agreement to expand a Saudi-owned refinery in Texas. The president also gave details on that massive $600 billion investment committed to the United States by MBS. The Crown Prince. It includes $142 billion in defense contracts, $80 billion in transformation technology, $20 billion in AI and energy infrastructure, and another $14 billion for energy deals. You were at the forum yesterday. Tell us what your reaction is to that and how that money will be allocated in America.
I mean, the buzz was insane. The Crown Prince was there. Prior to them walking in the room, there were signings after signings after signings. I can tell you that as CEO and chairman of Argent LNG, I've been in the region over the last 12 days trying to get our deal done with them. We look to no better partner to partner with than the Saudi government and the Saudi people. Argent LNG is lifting a 25 million ton LNG facility in Lafourche Parish in South Louisiana. And we're looking forward to being another member of that list that didn't make the cutoff date. So there's a lot of us that are here with a lot of deals, billions of dollars. Our project's about $25 billion right now. So I know that we probably have another $300–400 billion cooking on the works off the heels of the president's visit.
So Jonathan, what about the projects that you are exploring in the United States? I mean, one of the other big policy moves of this president has been deregulation. And clearly the permitting process was incredibly onerous. What have you seen in terms of change there, and what are your expectations with regard to projects in the U.S. regarding LNG?
Look, I think Chris Wright, Secretary Wright, has made strides forward in making this progress move forward on regulation. I think that you have a tremendous amount of work with the EPA on that. Secretary of Transport's helping on pipeline, PHMSA, and those issues that we have. But yes, to get our foreign investors coming into the United States to deploy capital, we need to address this issue of regulation, because their fear is that they get a project going, we get through the regulation process, we end up in years of arduous litigation, and it slows down, and then policy change.
Right, sure, of course, yeah. Well, that's why we need Congress to codify some of these executive orders. Jonathan, it's great to catch up. Enjoy the rest of your trip there in Riyadh. We appreciate your time this morning, sir. Thank you.